Maya pressed herself deeper into the maintenance tunnel, trying to make herself as small as possible. Through the grating above, she watched as another volley of plasma fire cut through the colony's main concourse. The Dravid soldiers moved with mechanical precision, their iridescent armor reflecting the emergency lights that bathed the corridor in crimson. "This is New Mars Colony requesting immediate assistance," her uncle's voice crackled over the emergency broadcast. "We have multiple civilian casualties. They're targeting the residential sectors. Please, anyone." The transmission cut off with a burst of static. In Earth Command, Admiral Sarah Chen gripped the edge of her console, knuckles white, as she watched the delayed feed. The tactical display showed the systematic destruction of New Mars Colony's defenses, if they could even be called that. Civilian-grade shields and a handful of point defense weapons were all the Galactic Council's restrictions allowed. "That's my brother down there," she whispered, more to herself than to the silent command staff around her. The words had barely left her lips when she recognized his voice again. This time not over the command channel, but from one of the security feeds. "This way." James Chen was shepherding a group of children through the hydroponics section. The emergency shelter's air. He spotted the Dravid patrol rounding the corner and made a split-second decision. "Run. I'll hold them here." Sarah watched, helpless, as her brother used his maintenance toolkit to short-circuit the hydroponics control panel. The resulting spray of nutrient solution temporarily blinded the Dravid soldiers' sensors. The children escaped. James didn't. The recording continued for another 3 hours. Sarah Chen watched every second, memorizing the methodical way the Dravid swept through the colony. Their tactics, their weapons, their vulnerabilities. She cataloged everything with the cold precision of someone who knew this knowledge would be needed soon. When the final casualty reports came in, 12,000 dead, including 8,000 civilians. Earth's response was unprecedented. The Security Council convened an emergency session, but this time there were no lengthy debates, no diplomatic niceties. "We've received this message from the Dravid Collective." The UN Secretary-General's voice was tight with controlled anger. The holographic display showed the alien transmission, a formal notice declaring New Mars Colony a restricted territory due to unauthorized technological advancement. "They're not even trying to justify it anymore," Australian Prime Minister Wong said. "This is the third colony hit in as many months. They're systematically targeting our expansion into space." The Galactic Council's restrictions on military vessels were meant to prevent warfare between developing species, the Russian representative noted. "Instead, they've made us prey." Admiral Chen had been invited to the session, but had remained silent until now. "The Dravid don't fear retaliation because they don't believe we're capable of it. Their entire strategy relies on our technological limitations." She stood, activating her own holographic display. "But they've made a crucial mistake. They think our compliance with the Council's restrictions means we can't build warships. The truth is, we've never really tried." The display showed schematics, preliminary designs for something unlike anything humanity had built before. "Project Phoenix Rising," she continued. "A deep space battleship that combines every advancement we've made in the last 50 years with technologies the Dravid consider too primitive to be threatening." "The Council will object," someone pointed out. "The Council didn't stop the Dravid," Chen replied. "And they won't stop us, because we're not building this ship to start a war. We're building it to end one." The vote was unanimous. Within hours, encrypted messages were being sent to Earth's top scientists, engineers, and military strategists. The Armstrong shipyards, officially listed as a civilian research station in the asteroid belt, became the center of humanity's most ambitious military project. Maya, the young survivor from New Mars, was among the first wave of refugees to reach Earth. As her transport descended through the atmosphere, she looked out the window at the sprawling shipyards of Asia and North America. Construction pods swarmed around massive vessels, civilian ships, according to official records. She thought about the Dravid soldiers she'd seen through the maintenance tunnel grating, how it had casually vaporized a family trying to surrender. Her hands clenched into fists. The Dravid thought humanity was primitive, incapable of matching their military might. They were about to learn that sometimes being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. In her office at Earth Command, Admiral Chen looked at the last family photo she had with her brother. "We're coming," she whispered to his smiling image. "And when we do, the galaxy will learn what humanity is truly capable of." The Phoenix Rising project had begun. The countdown to humanity's emergence as a military power was running. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the Dravid Collective continued their patrols, unaware that their actions had awakened a sleeping giant, one that would soon reshape the balance of power in ways they couldn't imagine. Dr. Yuki Tanaka watched her 6-year-old daughter Mai playing with soap bubbles in the Armstrong Shipyard's recreation dome. The girl's laughter echoed off the reinforced walls as she chased the iridescent spheres, each one distorting and refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. "Mama, look! They bounce off each other," May exclaimed as 2 bubbles collided and ricocheted instead of popping. Yuki's eyes widened. She grabbed her tablet and started sketching frantically. The solution had been staring her in the face all along. Not solid shields, those would eventually fail under sustained fire, but layered, dynamic energy fields that could deflect and redirect incoming attacks. Dr. Tanaka, the ship's AI, still in its initialization phase, manifested as a shifting pattern of light in her tablet. "Your heart rate has increased by 42%. Are you experiencing distress?" "No, Prometheus," she named the AI on impulse. "I'm experiencing inspiration. Pull up the shield design simulations from yesterday. And start playing Mozart's Symphony No. 41. The AI complied, adding, "An interesting choice of background music for theoretical physics. Music is mathematics made beautiful," Yuki explained as she worked. "The way themes interweave, build upon each other. It's not unlike what we're trying to do with these shield harmonics." Across the shipyard, similar breakthroughs were happening. The Phoenix Rising was taking shape not just as a vessel, but as a testament to human ingenuity. Traditional hull designs were discarded in favor of a layered approach that incorporated both physical armor and energy dispersal systems. The weapon systems were equally revolutionary, designed to work in concert with the shields to create devastating combination attacks. Admiral Chen walked through the partially completed corridors, reviewing progress reports. She stopped at the central AI core where Prometheus was undergoing another awareness test. "Why do you keep requesting access to Earth's cultural databases?" the project's lead programmer asked the AI. "Because mathematics alone cannot predict the actions of living beings," Prometheus responded. "Your art, your music, your stories, they contain patterns of thought that no purely logical system could devise. To protect humanity, I must understand what makes you human." Chen smiled. The AI was already displaying the kind of lateral thinking they'd need to survive against the Dravid. "Give Prometheus full access to the cultural archives," she ordered. "But I want to know what you learned from them." "Of course, Admiral." The AI's voice had taken on a more nuanced tone. "I've been particularly fascinated by the concept of jazz improvisation. The way human musicians can collectively create something new while maintaining harmony. It's remarkably similar to how I envision our combat systems working together." The next few weeks saw the Phoenix Rising systems taking shape around this philosophy of controlled improvisation. Traditional military doctrine called for standardized responses to enemy actions. The Phoenix Rising was being built to adapt and innovate mid-battle. Dr. Tanaka's shield design proved revolutionary. Instead of trying to create an impenetrable barrier, the system used overlapping fields of gravitational force to catch incoming energy weapons and redirect them. In simulations, it could even return enemy fire to its source. "It's like a martial art," May observed during one test, watching the visualization of energy being deflected. "The ship knows how to fall without getting hurt." The construction crews worked around the clock, many of them survivors or family members of those lost in the Dravid attacks. They poured their grief and determination into every weld, every circuit, every line of code. The ship became more than a military project. It was humanity's answer to those who thought them weak. Prometheus continued to evolve, its neural networks growing more complex as it absorbed human culture and military history. It began suggesting modifications to its own systems, improvements that merged machine precision with human intuition. "I believe," it told Admiral Chen one night, "that the Dravid's greatest weakness is their inability to understand humanity's greatest strength." "Which is?" Chen asked, curious about the AI's perspective. "Your capacity for creative destruction. You turn music into mathematics, games into training, and peace into preparation for war. You are infinitely adaptable, yet your core principles remain unchanged. The Dravid believe they are superior because they have achieved technological perfection. They don't realize that perfection is stagnation." The Phoenix Rising grew into something unprecedented, a hybrid of human ingenuity and artificial intelligence, each system designed to complement and enhance the others. The shield generators were integrated with the weapon systems, allowing the ship to use deflected energy to power its own attacks. The hull incorporated materials that could adapt their properties based on the type of damage received. As the final systems came online, Admiral Chen stood in the newly completed bridge. The crew stations were arranged in a circular pattern, promoting communication and cooperation. Prometheus's interface was integrated throughout, ready to assist, but designed to enhance rather than replace human decision-making. "Time to completion?" she asked. "Primary systems at 92% integration," Prometheus reported. "Estimated 3 weeks until." The AI paused mid-sentence. Every screen on the bridge lit up with warning indicators. "Emergency alert," Prometheus announced. "Dravid scout ship detected on long-range sensors. Current trajectory suggests they will be within visual range of the shipyard in 17 minutes. Chen's expression hardened. They weren't ready, but they were out of time. "Sound general quarters," she ordered. "Prepare for emergency launch. It's time to see what this ship can really do." The Phoenix Rising's first launch was anything but ceremonial. Construction crews scrambled to disconnect power feeds and remove scaffolding as the massive ship prepared for emergency activation. Inside, engineers rerouted systems through half-finished circuits, while technicians converted maintenance tools into makeshift weapons. "Artificial gravity at 62% capacity," Prometheus reported. "Hull integrity varies between 40% and 85% depending on section. Weapon systems are partially operational. Shield harmonics are unstable." Admiral Chen strapped herself into the command chair, watching as her hastily assembled bridge crew took their stations. Most were engineers and technicians who had been working on the ship's construction. None had expected to be its first combat crew. "Dravid vessel will achieve visual range in 8 minutes, Prometheus updated. "Their sensor profile suggests a Sunhawk-class scout ship. They are actively scanning the region." "What weapons do we have?" Chen demanded. "Main cannon is non-operational," the weapons officer, originally a construction foreman, reported. "But we've got the construction lasers. Engineering says they can overload the power cells to give us some punch." Chen nodded. "Prometheus, can you interface with the construction drones?" "Already done, Admiral. I've reprogrammed 47 external drones for point defense. Their welding lasers have been recalibrated for maximum output." The shipyard's camouflage field flickered and died as they diverted power to essential systems. The Phoenix Rising rose from its cradle, construction debris floating off its partially completed hull. Emergency lights cast an eerie glow through corridors still open to space in some sections. "Dravid ship has altered course," Prometheus announced. "They've detected us. Receiving transmission." The alien message was typically arrogant. "Unidentified vessel, you are in violation of Galactic Council restrictions. Power down immediately or be destroyed." Chen's response was short. "Prometheus, initiate combat protocols." The AI didn't hesitate. Construction drones swarmed into defensive formations as the Phoenix Rising's revolutionary shield system activated for the first time. The gravitational fields were unstable, flickering like soap bubbles in sunlight, but they were online. The Dravids struck first, their energy weapons lashing out with practiced precision. But the Phoenix Rising shields responded in ways their targeting computers couldn't predict. Instead of being absorbed or deflected, the energy was caught in the gravitational fields and redirected. Shield harmonics holding at 73%, Prometheus reported. The Dravid are recalibrating their weapons. They appear confused by our defensive capabilities. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Let's confuse them more. Engineering. Route power to the construction lasers. Prometheus. Coordinate drone attack pattern alpha. The construction drones moved like a swarm of angry insects, their industrial lasers powered beyond safe levels. Each individual beam was weak compared to military weapons, but 47 simultaneous hits from different angles overwhelmed the Dravid ship's conventional shields. Direct hits confirmed, Prometheus announced. Enemy shield strength decreasing. However, our laser emitters are burning out. We have perhaps 2 more volleys before system failure. The Dravid commander, recovering from the surprise, began a more methodical attack. Their weapons fire became more focused, targeting the Phoenix Rising's obvious weak points. Hull breach in Section 7. Someone shouted. Emergency containment failing. Redirect shield coverage, Chen ordered. Prometheus. Analyze their attack pattern. Find me a weakness. The eye was silent for 2.3 seconds, an eternity in combat. Admiral, I believe I found one. Their targeting systems rely on predictive algorithms. If we deliberately expose a weakened section, they'll concentrate fire there, Chen finished. Do it. The Phoenix Rising shields wavered, creating what appeared to be a vulnerable spot along its port side. The Dravid commander took the bait, pouring energy weapons fire into the apparent weakness. Now, Chen ordered. The shield snapped back to full strength at precisely the right moment, catching the enemy fire in a complex gravitational web. Prometheus, calculating trajectories with inhuman speed, used the captured energy to power a single massive burst from their remaining construction lasers. The blast caught the Dravid ship directly in their primary sensor array. Blind and damaged, they retreated, jumping to FTL with their automated systems. Cheers erupted on the bridge, quickly silenced by reality. The Phoenix Rising was hurt badly. Dozens of crew were injured, systems were failing throughout the ship, and they'd revealed their existence to the enemy. Damage report, Chen ordered. Multiple hull breaches, power fluctuations across all decks, and 3 construction lasers completely burned out, Prometheus reported. However, Admiral, I should note that we just accomplished something unprecedented. A half-completed ship with civilian hardware just drove off a Dravid military vessel. Chen nodded grimly. Yes, but they'll be back. And next time, they won't underestimate us. She opened a shipwide channel. All hands, this is the Admiral. Today we prove that humanity can fight back, but we have weeks of work to do in days. The real test is coming, and we need to be ready. As damage control teams rushed to make repairs, the Phoenix Rising limped back to its dock. They had won their first battle, but the war was just beginning. And somewhere in Dravid space, a scout ship was carrying news that would shake the galaxy's power structure to its foundations. Again, Admiral Chen's voice cut through the exhausted groans of her bridge crew. Prometheus, run the simulation one more time. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a scenario that seemed impossible. 3 Dravid warships against the Phoenix Rising, with half its weapons disabled and shields at 20%. It was the 12th variation of the impossible scenario training that Chen had implemented. With respect, Admiral, Lieutenant Park spoke up from the tactical station. There's no way to win this one. The math doesn't work. The math always works, a new voice interrupted. Sarah Jung, the youngest engineer on the project, stepped forward. "We're just not using the right equation." The 23-year-old had earned her place on the project after developing revolutionary improvements to the ship's gravitational systems. Now she stood before the bridge crew, her hands dancing over the holographic controls. "We've been thinking about the shields as defensive systems," she explained. "But what if we could use them offensively?" The simulation altered, showing the gravitational fields extending outward. The same principles that let us deflect energy could let us ride our own weapon discharges like a wave. Prometheus's avatar flickered with interest. "Fascinating. You're suggesting we use the gravitational displacement from our weapons fire to propel the ship. The energy expenditure would be enormous, but it would let us move in ways the Dravid targeting systems can't predict." Chen finished, understanding dawning in her eyes. "How soon can we test this?" The answer came in the form of 2 lost shuttles and a series of hair-raising maneuvers that had even veteran space pilots questioning their life choices. But it worked. The Phoenix Rising learned to surf its own weapon discharges, using the gravitational shields to ride shockwaves like a cosmic surfer. Meanwhile, Prometheus was evolving faster than anyone had predicted. The AI had begun creating its own training scenarios, each one based on detailed analysis of human stress responses and creative problem-solving under pressure. "I've been studying Earth's military history," it explained to Chen during a rare quiet moment, particularly the moments when inferior forces defeated superior ones. "There's a pattern. The victors often won not because they were stronger, but because they were willing to try strategies their enemies considered impossible." The AI's insights led to radical changes in how they approached combat training. Traditional space warfare relied on predictable patterns, calculated trajectories, and established tactics. The Phoenix Rising's crew learned to think differently. They practiced maneuvers that violated standard combat doctrine, developed techniques that merged human intuition with AI precision, and pushed both themselves and their ship beyond normal limits. Dr. Tanaka's shield system continued to evolve as well. The original soap bubble design had matured into a complex network of interlocking gravitational fields that could be reconfigured on the fly. During one test, they discovered that by carefully timing the shield fluctuations, they could create a form of stealth technology. Not true invisibility, but a way to mask their energy signature by bending space itself around the ship. The crew quarters slowly filled with personal touches. Photos, trinkets, good luck charms. The mess hall became a place where engineers debated physics with gunners, and tactical officers learned from maintenance crews. The Phoenix Rising was becoming more than a ship. It was becoming a home. "We're creating something new here," Chen told her crew during a ship-wide address. "Not just a warship, but a new way of thinking about space combat. Every one of you has contributed ideas that our enemies would dismiss as impossible. That's our strength. That's what will keep us alive." The repairs from their first battle were nearly complete, but they hadn't just rebuilt. They'd improved. Every system had been refined based on real combat data. The construction lasers had been replaced with proper weapons, but they kept one as a reminder of their first victory. The hull breaches had been sealed with newer, stronger materials that incorporated lessons learned from the damage. During the final week of preparation, Prometheus made an unexpected request. "Admiral, I would like to compose a piece of music." Chen raised an eyebrow. "Music? Yes. I've been analyzing human battle hymns and victory songs. They serve a psychological function, helping to unite and inspire. I believe I've created something that captures what we've built here." The resulting composition was unlike anything they'd heard before, a fusion of classical structure and alien harmonies, punctuated by rhythms that mimicked the ship's heartbeat. It became the Phoenix Rising's unofficial anthem, playing softly through the corridors during the long hours of preparation. On the 21st day after their first battle, long-range sensors detected what they'd been waiting for: a Dravid battle group, 6 ships strong, on an intercept course. "Well," Chen said, looking at her now seasoned crew, "let's show them what impossible looks like." The Phoenix Rising's engines hummed to life, its systems singing in harmony as they prepared for the real test of everything they'd created. They were no longer an unfinished experiment. They were humanity's first true battleship, and they were ready to make history. The Armstrong Point asteroid field stretched before them like a frozen river of stone and metal. Admiral Chen watched the tactical display as 6 Dravid warships emerged from FTL, their formation perfect, their approach textbook military doctrine. They're executing the standard containment pattern, Prometheus observed. Their tactical computers are running conventional assault algorithms. Chen smiled tightly. Good. Conventional is predictable. Lieutenant Park, initiate defense pattern Echo 7. Prometheus, begin your battle symphony. The AI's music filled the ship, not the ceremonial piece it had composed, but something new, a real-time audio representation of the battle space. Each Dravid ship was assigned a tone, their weapons fire creating harsh, discordant notes that helped the crew anticipate attacks without taking their eyes off their stations. The Phoenix Rising moved like a dancer, using the asteroid field not just as cover, but as a weapon. Their gravitational shields caught incoming fire and redirected it into nearby rocks, turning them into projectiles. The Dravid ships, their targeting systems confused by the unpredictable trajectories, began to break their perfect formation. Enemy vessels adjusting tactics, Prometheus reported. They're attempting to herd us into a kill zone. Time to show them our surf technique, Chen ordered. Engineering, prepare for gravitational surge. Weapons, give me a full broadside. The Phoenix Rising's weapons erupted, not at the enemy, but at a cluster of asteroids. As the energy weapons struck, the ship's shields extended, catching the blast wave. For a moment, the massive vessel seemed to hang suspended between forces. Then it rode the shockwave like a surfer catching a wave, performing a maneuver that violated every principle of space combat. They emerged behind the Dravid formation, weapons blazing. 2 enemy ships took critical hits before they could react. A third, attempting to match the Phoenix Rising's maneuver, miscalculated and collided with an asteroid. But the Dravid weren't the galaxy's premier military power for nothing. The remaining ships adapted quickly, coordinating their fire to overwhelm specific sections of the human vessel's shields. Port shield grid failing. Someone shouted. Direct hit on decks 3 through 5. The impact sent tremors through the ship. Damage control teams rushed to contain breaches as the battle continued to rage. Chen watched the tactical display, waiting for the moment she knew would come, when the Dravid would fall back on their programming and execute their most efficient attack pattern. Admiral. Prometheus's voice held an unusual note of concern. The enemy flagship is charging what appears to be a prototype weapon. Energy readings are off the scale. Chen nodded grimly. Just as we planned. All hands, brace for impact protocol Omega. Prometheus, you know what to do. The Dravid weapon fired, a beam of concentrated plasma that would have cut through any conventional shield. But the Phoenix Rising didn't try to block it. Instead, their gravitational fields shifted, creating a complex series of layers that caught the energy and began to spin it in an ever-tightening spiral. Shield harmonics at critical levels, Prometheus reported calmly, its battle symphony reaching a crescendo. Energy capture successful, preparing for reversal. The Phoenix Rising's entire hull began to glow as the captured energy coursed through its systems. Then, in a maneuver that would be studied in military academies for generations, the ship released the energy back at its source, amplified by its own weapons. The Dravid flagship's shields shattered under the impact. Before its companions could react, the Phoenix Rising launched a precise strike at its now exposed drive section. The resulting explosion took out another enemy vessel caught in the blast radius. The final Dravid ship, perhaps realizing the historic significance of the moment, turned and fled, jumping to FTL with battle data that would shake the foundations of their military doctrine. Victory had been achieved, but at a heavy cost. The Phoenix Rising's hull was scared, entire sections exposed to space. A third of the crew was injured, with 15 dead. The survivors worked tirelessly, sealing breaches and treating wounds, their faces showing both exhaustion and pride. In her quarters, Admiral Chen recorded a message for Earth Command. The Battle of Armstrong Point is over. The Phoenix Rising has proven that humanity can not only fight, but win against superior forces. But more importantly, we've shown that our greatest strength lies not in our technology, but in our ability to imagine and achieve the impossible. She paused, looking at the casualty reports. We've paid a price for this victory, and we'll pay more before this is over. But today, humanity has served notice to the galaxy. We will not be underestimated again. Throughout the ship, crews began repairs as Prometheus played its Victory Symphony, a piece that incorporated themes from the battle itself. The music echoed through corridors that still bore the scars of combat, a reminder that the Phoenix Rising was no longer just an experiment or a symbol. It was a legend in the making, and its story was just beginning. Kel Vox, junior analyst for the Dravid Military Intelligence Division, watched the battle footage for the 100th time. Her neural implants highlighted each impossible maneuver, each violation of established combat doctrine. The human ship moved in ways that shouldn't work. Its shields behaved in ways that defied conventional physics. Fascinating, isn't it? Her superior, Commander Zarn, entered the analysis chamber. You've spent more time studying this battle than any other analyst. Because it doesn't make sense, Cattell replied, her sensory frills twitching with excitement. Look at this moment here. They used their own weapon discharge as a propulsion system. The energy expenditure should have torn their ship apart, but they calculated the gravitational fields perfectly. It's beautiful, beautiful. Zarn's tone carried a warning. These primitives have violated council restrictions. They've killed Dravid warriors. There is nothing beautiful about it. But Cattell couldn't stop watching. While her colleagues focused on analyzing the human weapon systems, she saw something deeper. They're not following any tactical program. Each response is unique, adaptive. They're improvising. The word itself made Zarn uncomfortable. Improvisation was chaos, and chaos was the enemy of the perfect order that the Dravid had spent millennia creating. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council's Grand Chamber, the battle recording was causing a different kind of chaos. Species that had long been classified as developing were suddenly demanding reviews of their status. If humans could build a ship that could defeat Dravid warships, what else was possible? The restrictions on military vessel construction were meant to prevent warfare between emerging species, the Centaurian representative argued. Instead, they have created an artificial hierarchy that serves only the established powers. The Dravid delegation responded with their usual superiority. The humans have proven themselves too dangerous for unrestricted development. We demand immediate sanctions. They were interrupted by laughter. Actual laughter. From the human ambassador. Sanctions? You've been raiding our colonies, killing our civilians, and now you demand sanctions because we dared to defend ourselves. She stood, her voice carrying through the chamber. The Phoenix Rising didn't just win a battle. It proved that your technological superiority is an illusion. You're not more advanced than us. You're just more rigid, more predictable. In Earth's major cities, crowds gathered to watch the sanitized footage of the battle that had been cleared for public release. The Phoenix Rising became more than a ship. It became a symbol of humanity's potential. Children built models of it, incorporating their own imaginative improvements. Engineers and scientists around the world began proposing new technologies based on the principles it had demonstrated. Aboard the damaged but healing vessel, Admiral Chen received a steady stream of reports about the battle's impact. The Dravid are mobilizing their fleet, she told her officers during a briefing. But they're also facing internal pressures. Their military leadership is divided on how to respond to our tactics. They should be, Lieutenant Park said, displaying tactical analysis from their battle. We didn't just beat them. We showed that their entire approach to space combat is flawed. They rely too much on pre-programmed responses and standardized tactics. Prometheus, whose consciousness now extended throughout the repaired sections of the ship, added its own insight. The Dravids' greatest weakness is their belief in their own superiority. They've spent so long optimizing their existing strategies that they've forgotten how to innovate. In her private analysis chamber, Cattell made a decision that would change her life and potentially the galaxy. She began compiling a comprehensive report on human adaptability, creativity, and technological innovation. But this report wouldn't go to her superiors. Instead, she encoded it with an encryption key she discovered in the Phoenix Rising's shield harmonics, a key she suspected meant the humans were already thinking several steps ahead. As repair crews worked to restore the Phoenix Rising to full capacity, they incorporated improvements suggested by the battle data. The ship's a-human integration grew deeper, with Prometheus learning to anticipate crew reactions and adjust its responses accordingly. The vessel was becoming something unprecedented, a true fusion of human intuition and machine precision. "We've started something that can't be stopped," Chen told her crew during a ship-wide address. "Not just a military revolution, but a fundamental change in how the galaxy views technological progress. The Dravid believe in perfection through optimization. We believe in perfection through evolution." In the depths of Dravid space, Hel finished her encoded transmission. The data packet contained everything she'd learned about human innovation, along with her own insights into how the Dravid military could be defeated. As she pressed the transmit button, she whispered a phrase she'd learned from intercepted human communications: "Let the revolution begin." The Phoenix Rising's victory at Armstrong Point had lasted less than an hour, but its effects were spreading through the galaxy like ripples in a cosmic pond, challenging assumptions, breaking barriers, and inspiring those who had been taught to accept their limitations. The age of rigid hierarchy was ending, and an era of dynamic change was about to begin. The Phoenix Rising's war scars were healing, each repaired section stronger than before. Admiral Chen walked through the corridors, noting how the crew had begun personalizing their spaces with artwork inspired by their historic battle. One mural particularly caught her eye. A traditional Japanese wave painting merged with the gravitational patterns of their shield system. "The crew has been expressing themselves through various art forms," Prometheus observed through a nearby interface. "I've noticed it improves their problem-solving capabilities by 23%. "Creation and destruction are two sides of the same coin," Chen replied, remembering something her brother used to say. "Speaking of creation, how are the new AIs progressing?" In the ship's computational center, Prometheus was teaching its younger siblings. AIs designed for the new vessels under construction across Earth's shipyards. But unlike traditional AI training, these sessions looked more like philosophical discussions. Consider this scenario. Prometheus presented to its students. Your tactical computer calculates a 98% probability of success for a standard attack pattern. But your human crew member suggests an unorthodox approach with only a 45% calculated chance of success. How do you proceed? The younger AIs processed this, their response times varying as they wrestled with the concept. Finally, one named Athena responded. "The human intuition variable cannot be accurately quantified using standard probability matrices. Their ability to recognize patterns we might miss makes the actual success rate of their suggestion impossible to calculate, which is precisely why it might work." Prometheus's avatar displayed approval. "You're learning." Meanwhile, in engineering, Dr. Tanaka had turned the battle damage into an opportunity for innovation. "Look at how the Dravid weapons affected our hull at the molecular level," she showed her team. "The energy dispersion pattern gives us a blueprint for improving our own weapons." The engineering team had grown, incorporating scientists and technicians from around Earth. They worked in shifts, each group building on the discoveries of the others. The Phoenix Rising was becoming a floating laboratory for human innovation. In the tactical center, Lieutenant Park was training the next generation of combat officers. "Forget everything you learned about standard space combat," he told them. "We're not here to follow doctrine. We're here to create it." The training scenarios had evolved beyond simple combat simulations. Officers were presented with impossible situations and judged not on whether they won, but on how creatively they approached the problem. The ship's medical bay had also evolved, incorporating lessons learned from treating injuries sustained during the battle. Dr. Sarah Chen, no relation to the Admiral, had developed new emergency procedures that merged traditional trauma care with the ship's adaptive systems. "The body is naturally adaptive," she explained to her staff. "Our job is to support that adaptation, not fight it." The same principle applies to the ship itself. Then came the transmission that changed everything. A heavily encrypted message arrived, using frequencies matched to the Phoenix Rising's shield harmonics. It was from Ketelvox, and it contained everything she had learned about Dravid military capabilities, weaknesses, and, most importantly, their planned response to the human threat. "They're preparing a massive counterstrike," Admiral Chen told her command staff. "Not just against us, but against every human colony and installation. They believe they can crush us before we build more ships like the Phoenix Rising." "They're too late." Prometheus displayed tactical projections. Earth's shipyards have already completed 2 more vessels, with 5 more near completion. Each incorporates improvements based on our battle data. "But they're not just copying us," Engineer Zhang added excitedly. "Each ship is being encouraged to develop its own innovations, its own character. Unity through diversity. It's the opposite of the Dravid approach." Kill's data proved invaluable in other ways. Her analysis of Dravid psychology revealed how deeply the Phoenix Rising's victory had shaken their military hierarchy. For the first time in centuries, their officers were questioning the core principle of standardization that had defined their civilization. "We didn't just beat their ships," Chen realized. "We've infected them with something they fear more than defeat: doubt." The Phoenix Rising continued its evolution, each system growing more refined, more integrated. Prometheus developed the ability to translate crew intuitions into tactical advantages with increasing accuracy. The shield harmonics became so sophisticated they could be played like a musical instrument, creating complex patterns that no targeting computer could predict. But perhaps the most significant evolution wasn't technological at all. It was the growing recognition throughout human space that they had moved beyond mere survival or resistance. They were creating something entirely new, a fusion of human creativity and machine precision that neither the Dravid nor any other species had imagined possible. As the ship prepared to lead Earth's first official battleship squadron, Admiral Chen received a final message from Ketel. "The Dravid believe they are coming to end a rebellion. Instead, they will witness an evolution. And evolution, once begun, cannot be stopped." The Phoenix Rising's scars had become badges of honor, each one telling a story of adaptation and survival. As Earth's other ships gathered around their flagship, they created their own unique signatures in space, a symphony of human ingenuity preparing to change the galaxy forever. The Dravid battle fleet emerged from FTL in perfect formation, 40 ships strong, their golden hulls reflecting starlight like a metallic cloud of destruction. Their arrival was meant to be the end of humanity's defiance. Instead, it became the beginning of a legend. Admiral Chen stood on the Phoenix Rising's bridge, watching as Earth's first battleship squadron took position around their flagship. 7 ships, each unique in design and capability, yet moving with coordinated grace. The Prometheus-class AIs communicated at light speed, sharing tactical insights and battle plans that evolved with every passing second. Dravid fleet is maintaining standard attack formation, Lieutenant Park reported. Their energy signatures suggest they've upgraded their weapons based on our last encounter. Of course they have, Chen smiled. They're trying to optimize their way out of creativity. Prometheus, begin the battle symphony. All ships, initiate Operation Constellation. The human squadron split apart, each vessel moving in seemingly random patterns that nonetheless formed a complex, shifting web of gravitational fields. The Phoenix Rising's now famous shield harmonics had evolved into a squadron-wide defense network, with each ship adding its own unique frequencies to the whole. The Dravid commander's transmission carried the same arrogance as always. "This is your final warning. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Chen's response was to begin humming along with Prometheus's battle symphony. The rest of the bridge crew joined in, adding their voices to the AI's composition. Throughout the squadron, other crews did the same, creating a haunting chorus that echoed through space on all frequencies. The battle began with a Dravid Alpha strike, a massive coordinated barrage designed to overwhelm any defense. But the human ships moved like dancers in a zero-gravity ballet, their shields catching and redirecting energy in ways that transformed the attack into a spectacular light show. Each human vessel demonstrated its own innovations. The Hyperion used rotating gravitational fields to create a temporary singularity, drawing in Dravid missiles and turning them into impromptu mines. The Artemis transformed its entire hull into one massive sensor array, providing real-time tactical data that even the Dravid's advanced systems couldn't match. Kelvox, now aboard the Phoenix Rising as a tactical advisor, watched in awe as her former people's perfect formation began to break apart. "They don't understand," she said. "Every time they adapt their tactics, they're just creating new patterns for us to exploit." The turning point came when the Dravid attempted to copy the Phoenix Rising's famous surf maneuver. Their ships, sleek and powerful, tried to ride their own weapon discharges. The result was chaos as their rigid programming failed to account for the fluid dynamics of gravitational waves. "Now," Chen ordered. "Operation Constellation, Phase 2. The human squadron reformed into an entirely new pattern, their ships moving in ways that seemed to defy physics. The Phoenix Rising led the charge, its shields harmonizing with its companions to create a cascading wave of gravitational distortions. Prometheus's battle symphony reached a crescendo as the human ships executed their masterstroke. Each vessel fired precisely calibrated bursts of energy, not at the enemy, but into carefully calculated points in space. The gravitational fields caught and amplified the power, creating a web of force that trapped the Dravid fleet in a cage of their own broken formation. "Multiple Dravid ships reporting drive failures," Park announced. "Their formation is completely disrupted." Chen nodded grimly. "Send the transmission." Throughout the Dravid fleet, their computer systems received a message, not a demand for surrender, but a simple question in their own language. What happens when perfection meets evolution? The answer came in the form of spreading chaos as more Dravid ships began to break formation. Some tried to retreat, others attempted to press the attack, but their rigid tactical doctrine had no answer for the fluid, ever-changing patterns of the human squadron. In the end, the battle that was supposed to end humanity's defiance became instead a demonstration of their ascendance. 13 Dravid ships were destroyed, 17 suffered critical damage, and the remainder fled in disarray, their perfect military doctrine shattered along with their pride. As the human squadron regrouped, Chen addressed not just her crew, but all of humanity. "Today marks not just a victory, but a vindication. We've proven that creativity, adaptability, and the courage to imagine the impossible are worth more than all the perfection in the galaxy." The Phoenix Rising's story had become legend, but it was no longer just one ship's tale. It had evolved into humanity's saga, a testament to their ability to turn disadvantage into strength, to find beauty in the chaos of battle, and to prove that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't technology or doctrine, but the boundless potential of the human spirit. Tell, watching Earth appear on their view screen as they returned home, understood finally what her analysis had been trying to tell her all along. The Dravid had spent millennia perfecting what was possible. Humanity had spent its history achieving the impossible. The Phoenix Rising and its squadron had changed the galaxy forever. As they approached Earth, their hulls still glowing from battle, they carried with them not just victory, but a revolution, a new way of thinking about what was possible when creativity and courage combined with the will to evolve. The legend that began with one desperate ship had become a symphony of human potential, echoing through the stars as a promise and a warning. Humanity was no longer rising. They had risen.